We'll find out after the jump.
I suffer from a debilitating condition known as atropic chalkitis.
Peter's one of the greatest depositors I've ever seen.
Trust the process. Let's go. Let's go.
I got auto matched with Levitan. This is bullshit.
If I just go the other way in that 66, I win all the money. All the money.
If I had 150 lineups, I'd win too.
Process over results.
Illuminati make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust out AP, cut 5 bullets to your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
Look at this GM train we got going. GM, ooh, uppercase G, boo, Corey, boo, Brian, GM, Nick, GM, Jeremy, GM, A. Rocha, GM, Jason, GM, David Hawk with the double capital letters, boo, GM in this bish, GM. How we doing, guys? How are we doing? Six says, hold on to the feeling you have right now because in a few hours, winter is coming. You're already throwing in the towel on this slate. This is a good slate. We need to relish it. I think this is going to be a really fun one. I think there are all kinds of directions you can go. It doesn't feel like any single one game is getting steamed as super popular. We have tons of options at running back. I mean, it's the perfect GPP slate with D'Ernest Johnson and Mark Ingram down there projecting as really good values. And then we just have a ton of great ceiling options up top. And I feel like the big riddle this morning is trying to figure out which of these guys come in under owned, because we're going to flip over the cards here at one, and one or two of these guys is going to be sub 5%. Right now, I think it might be like a DeAndre Swift, a guy that earlier in the week was going to catch, 16, 17% ownership. And I wouldn't be surprised now that Big Ben is out, now that there's snow concerns for that game, one of these guys is going to get squeezed. And I think that's kind of the fun riddle. It's also trying to figure out, what's going to happen with Cordero Patterson's ownership? What's going to happen with James Connors? These guys in the mid sixes, I think, are a little tricky because my read is that most people will play one of D'Ernest Johnson and Mark Ingram. Obviously, the cash game bros are jamming both, but the GPP bros will probably eat the chalk on one of those and then use the savings to get up to a premium back, to get up to a Jonathan Taylor, a McCaffrey, a Najee, an Austin Eckler, a Dalvin Cook. And then I wonder if that leaves the mid sixes guys slightly overlooked. That's just my working theory right now, but man, it is really spread out across those top backs here. Let's see. How are we doing here in the chat? You guys are firing. Nick says, if you're playing Ingram or Johnson, are you doing one-offs or pairing with Myers or AJ Brown? Yeah, so I do like that mini correlation with Mark Ingram and AJ Brown. It kind of helps give me the confidence to eat the Mark Ingram chalk, knowing that I'm at least slightly correlated. I haven't been forcing correlations with D'Ernest, and I honestly don't think you need to force them with either. But I do like that Mark Ingram, AJ Brown one because AJ Brown looks relatively sneaky to me. Unlike running back where the ownership is pretty flat up top, we do have some guys projecting for nice ceilings that are looking like they're going to be sub 10% right now. AJ Brown, top 3 ceiling on the slate, top 4, top 5 ceiling there. Sub 10%. Justin Jefferson every goddamn week, sub 10%. And I actually do think Jefferson will be sub 10% this week because he's not projecting that differently to Adam Thielen. And those $1,000 in savings are pretty significant this week. Obviously, we have our cover boy, Mike Williams, sub 10%. Terry McLaurin, I think, will be sub 10%. So lots of good high-end wide receiver plays with so many people gravitating to Devontae Adams, who's just too cheap. And then I think the other situation that's really interesting up there is how people are going to handle this Mike Evans and Chris Godwin situation. Because earlier in the week when you ran optimals, Chris Godwin was in every optimal. He was projecting really well at 7,100. Then, of course, he misses practice most of this week with his foot injury. They are now saying it looks like he's on the good side of questionable, but there are some concerns about how limited he might be. So I'm trying to think through early week, Chris Godwin popular, Evans the contrarian play. Then Godwin misses all these practices. So then all the ownership swings over to Mike Evans. Right now, it's looking like he could be the second highest owned wide receiver on the slate. But now all of a sudden, Chris Godwin is trending back in the right direction. So the question is the field going to just be like, yeah, I don't want to deal with a limited Godwin. I'll just continue to let it ride with Evans. Or does that even out a little bit in its split? My hunch is that people are just kind of shrug it off and say, I'll just play Evans. I won't deal with the Godwin limited headache. I'll save the 200. Evans has played well in these situations. I'll just do that. However, the one other interesting thing about that is because I think Evans will be popular as a one-off, I do wonder if the Tom Brady double stacks aren't quite as popular as they would have otherwise been. Because before it was going to be like, oh, it's just so simple. You play Godwin and then you toss in one of the Tampa Bay tight ends. But the more I think through it, OJ Howard's projecting well, but him and Brait always are a little messy projection wise. So neither of them just pop out extremely well. And then because of the uncertainty with the Evans Godwin, it's not the cleanest double stack, I think, for hand builders. And then the bringbacks are pretty gross too, right? I mean, Terry McLaurin looks good as a GPP play, but he doesn't project as well as these other guys up at 7,600. He's one of the worst points per dollar plays of the guys, over 6,000. And then no one wants to play Antonio Gibson. I mean, JD McKissic, there's so much opportunity cost on this slate with how good the running backs are. So this is just me talking out loud that I don't think the Tampa Bay Bucks doubles are going to be as popular as we thought they would be early in the week. And I also think I mentioned some of those guys in the sixes at running back who could get squeezed. I could also see Fournette getting squeezed at 6,100. I haven't built anything with Fournette, but I have been building some Brady double stacks there. The only thing that sucks is that game is at 1 p.m. Normally the Bucks play in that 4 p.m. slate. It would be nice to have some swaptions with those guys, just because there's some pretty clean pivots there. So we'll know more about Chris Godwin here in 45 minutes or so. But I do think that's an interesting situation. Let's see. Giants Gaming, what do you think about three backs and going with both CMC and Dalvin with Johnson? So yeah, I do think more so than any week in recent memory that I can remember that this slate looks more attractive for three running backs because of how deep running back is. And also the wide receiver value on this slate is basically non-existent. So if you're trying to save money, you can do it at tight end. And you're most likely doing it with at least one of the running back or flex spots with Dearness Johnson or Mark Ingram. Because, I mean, I'm looking at the punt play wide receivers. Early in the week, James Washington was projecting pretty well at 3,500, but that was with the assumption that Big Ben was going to play. His projection and ownership has come down a little bit. And to me, that tracks. That game looks incredibly gross. Kevin Roth sent me over a weather alert to include in the newsletter. He said, when what starts as rain snow mix should quickly transition to all snow during the game. Temperatures will remain above freezing, so we won't see significant accumulating snow and winds. But the falling snow will be enough to impact the passing game. Expect a slower game with a bit greater emphasis on the run game than usual. So lots of factors pointing away from James Washington being a super popular punt play. The guy that I'm worried about getting steamed that looks like a good punt play would be Michael Gallup. To me, he's just such an obvious guy to toss into your Dak Prescott double stacks with one of CD or Schultz or Amari that I worry in small field. He's going to be incredibly popular. But like outside of that, I mean, MVS looks decent to me at 3,500. KJ Osborne looks okay at 3,400. But it is really gross for cheap wide receivers. So this is a very roundabout way to say I do think it's very viable to build three running backs this week. And I think too, someone like James Conner, who's projecting very well and plays late, he's a guy that you could have in your flex and try to have some late swap options. Maybe you leave an extra 300 or 400 on the table and you can pivot him to a Mike Williams or Adam Thielen late, I think would be something I would entertain if I am, at least starting with a three running back build. Tom says, am I a crazy person for trying to do a Kirk, Jefferson, Thielen stack? I don't think you're crazy. To me, that definitely seems way more large field. I mean, Kirk Cousins isn't on my short list for quarterbacks. I would kind of prefer to almost just play that without Kirk. Like, I'd almost rather just play a Jalen Hurts at quarterback and then run like Jefferson, Thielen, Eckler, whatever the rest of your stack was going to be, and just see if you can get more of a ceiling with Hurts in his rushing and then capture all the touchdowns through Jefferson and Thielen. I think I do hear what you're saying. If you're going to premium it with Jefferson and Thielen, I guess Kirk's probably coming along for the ride, but I'd almost rather do, Thielen and Conklin and then go to Hurts and get a quarterback with some rushing upside. So Kirk Cousins isn't really popping for me, but again, he's late. So that could be one of those pivots you make if you're buried early. All right, Joshua Frick is getting his hand in the dirt. He's saying we can't play AJ Brown because the Saints are going to scheme him out of the game. Yeah, for me, AJ Brown's target shares have been out of this world. Volume is the most important thing, and we know AJ Brown is a complete stud that can get it done even against lots of attention, and he's not going to be popular. If AJ Brown had a cakewalk matchup or whatever, he would be 20% owned, but he's going to be sub 10%. So I have no problem going to AJ Brown. We will let the wide receiver cornerback matchup bros worry about that one. Speaking about different types of GPP bros, we do have the new hand builder hoodies that are in. Love how this design came out. Super comfy. I think it's pinned in the chat. If you are in the Run the Sims channel in the Discord, which means you're a Run the Sims member or you have subscribed to be a YouTube member, down below, there is a discount specifically for this hoodie that you can get if you're in there. Highly, highly recommend these hoodies. The brand hoodie that I use for these, Bella Canvas, it has ruined all other hoodies for me because they are so comfortable. So check those out. I also have some other stuff up in the store as well. Ricky Beers says Fournette 10 target game incoming. Yeah, I could see that. 10 targets seems a little high because I think they are going to be able to have their way with Washington. So I doubt Leonard Fournette will need that many checkdowns, but he doesn't look like a bad play to me. And I do think his ownership will get squeezed. Like, I'm seeing him at about 15%, but I don't know, unless I'm missing something, I just think there's so many other options, either cheaper or slightly above him, that are going to be more attractive to people than Fournette. So I actually think Fournette might end up being fairly sneaky. Let's see here. Let's run the Sims here and see what is popping over here in the Sims. The other guy we should mention as well, obviously, is Randre Stevenson. And, I saw some chatter of people wondering if he might get popular. I really don't think he's going to get popular. There's lots of factors kind of working against him as far as a popularity standpoint. First of all, he didn't practice all week. So we didn't have the content machine being like, oh, is Randre Stevenson in the same conversation as Mark Ingram and Dearness Johnson? We didn't have that. People are generally sick of Patriots running back shenanigans. There's lots of stuff going on out there of like, oh, he's been inactive some of these games. The team doesn't trust him, yada, yada. This is also kind of a low scoring game. If you're playing a running back from that game, you're probably just playing Dearness Johnson, yada, yada, yada. I don't think Randre is going to be super popular. That said, I think he's a pretty good tournament play. And I'm definitely going to have some. The thing about Randre to me is the inactive stuff doesn't hold too much weight for me because it's been so binary. When he is active, the team uses him and they use him in big spots. I mean, he had that incredible catch on a wheel route in that game against the Cowboys on a pretty important down. So once the team makes him active, and now you remove Damian Harris from the situation, he looks pretty good to me, especially because he has that dual skill set and he has been catching passes. And I think it's something the team likes with Randre, where when you have James White on the field, when you have, Damian Harris, you're telegraphing what you're going to do. With Randre, he can play both ways. He's kind of a souped up version of what Rex Burkhead used to be for them. So this is my way of saying I like Randre. I feel like his kind of range of ceiling outcomes isn't that much less than, say, Dearness and Ingram. It's enough for him not to pop projections wise as much as those guys, but I do think he makes a very good GPP play. we do have the Holka Bros, the We Are Back Bros are here. Welcome, guys. Shout out to Holka. We will be live tonight at 6 p.m. for the Tilt Space. After this show, we are going to go and build our DraftKings and FanDuel lineups. It will be a good time. We are due. It's been a rough few weeks. I'm feeling good about this slate. Thank you, Frost GE. Very nice of you. Ivan Black just got his thought leader in ship chasing hoodies yesterday. This stream, I feel like I'm shot out of a cannon. I'm trying to keep up with the chat, trying to talk about the Patriots backfield. We are firing. Let's see. What did I see a question in here? I am going to go to the Sims in a sec. Let's see. Any advice on who the lowest owned viable cheap DST is? Are Lions going to be chalk? Yeah, I worry the Lions are going to get steamed pretty hard here with Big Ben out. The pricing is tight on this slate if you're trying to jam in a lot of studs. So going down to the Lions at 2,300. Before that, it was the Titans who were projecting to be extremely popular. My favorite Ds right now, I've been having a hard time finding a super cheap D that I think is a good tournament play. But the three that stood out for me, Eagles at 2,700, Packers at 2,900, and the Browns at 2,800. That's kind of the sweet spot for me of, I think those guys have decent matchups. Both the Eagles and Packers are in Brandon Thorne's defensive line, offensive line mismatch. And it doesn't look like they're going to catch a ton of ownership with everyone playing Titans or Lions. So if you can find that $100, $200, $300 extra in your couch cushions, I would definitely get up to those guys and try not to eat the chalk. That said, there are a couple lineups where I have fallen in love and I need the Lions to facilitate it. So it is what it is. Just make sure you're being conscious of your overall cumulative ownership and that you're not eating too much chalk there. All right. Thank you. Pete should win an Oscar about this time every Sunday morning. Yeah, once the Oscars release the category for Best Frantic GPP Bro Show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, I think we definitely have to be in that conversation. Let's see here. Will Leone share his secret plays with you guys this week or once again keep them for himself? So the secret Leone plays that he really likes the Buccaneers double stack, but says he's not going to play it at all, but maybe we should play it in the tilt space. So that's the Leone secret play, is the one he thinks is a good play, but doesn't want to pull the trigger on himself. So we will see what we end up with there. But for the record, I like the Buck spot. What is AJB a drop against Lattimore? What all of you guys are scared about Lattimore? Come on. What more does AJ Brown have to do for you? The two things that trump any defensive matchup is an alpha wide receiver getting really good volume. AJ Brown has that in spades. Like, I understand if you don't want to jam him, but he is an objectively good GPP play at sub 10%. The only guys I think that have a higher ceiling than him on this slate is Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Stefan Diggs. He's right there in that conversation, and those other guys are going to be double the ownership. AJ Brown is a great GPP play. The fact that everyone is so scared about Lattimore is what makes him a great GPP play. I need to go edit my thumbnail right now. I need to put AJ Brown on the middle of the thumbnail with the Dolce sunglasses because everyone's worried. Where's Davis Maddock here to let us know if we should be worried about Marshawn Lattimore? God, I can't wait for the tweets when Lattimore holds AJ Brown for 3 catches for 42 yards. It'll be great. I won't favorite them. I'll probably just mute you. Okay, let's go to the Sims. I do want to see if there's anything interesting standing out to us in the Sims. Lots has changed since we last talked with Reeves on Friday, so we can check in here and see how things are shaking out. This is, of course, 10,000 simulations here showing us how often these players are showing up in the winning lineups. And we can kind of compare things against ownership to see where, maybe the math is more bullish on something than the field or vice versa. So right away, you can see here, Dearness Johnson is a great play. No one needs me to tell them that. Showing up 32% of the time in the optimal lineups, projected right now at about 37%. And I expect that to be even a little higher in small field stuff. James Conner also projecting very well in matching and pacing his projected own. Jonathan Taylor looks really good here. His ownership is interesting to me. Earlier in the week, I would have thought that people were going to go, one of Dearness and Ingram and then try to get up to a Jonathan Taylor. But now, because there's so many attractive options up there, and I know everyone's getting a little bit more comfortable with Christian McCaffrey as a play this week, I do think it'll be fairly spread out at that top end across Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and Najee. I think those guys will be relatively interesting. There's our guy, A.J. Brown here. The math, once again, bearing out that the field is not playing him enough relative to how much he's popping in these optimal lineups. Aaron Jones is interesting. He is the direct, leverage play off of the Devontae Adams chalk. He's a tough one for me this week just because there's so many other running backs that project really well. But he's obviously a good play. And I think he's someone too that you have the late swap flexibility, where if you put in, if you have some late swap options with a Devontae Adams, if you're crushing early, you could let a Devontae Adams ride. Obviously there's $1,000 difference, but looking at some potential swaps there, and then pivoting to Aaron Jones, if you were behind, I think is a pretty clean leverage situation. Interesting to see Kyle Pitts up here. I actually think his ownership will be a little less than this. Maybe not. My thought is that most people running out Dallas double stacks are going to prefer to bring it back with Patterson relative other than Pitts. I could be wrong on that. But Pitts obviously looks like a good play, and he's probably the only tight end on this slate that could really separate and put up, 25 plus points. So he's certainly intriguing in that game. DeAndre Swift, like I said, I think is a guy who could definitely get squeezed. He's still projecting well. Trying to see if we have anything else interesting in here. I mean, a lot of these top end running backs are, appearing at about the same clip. And yeah, the chat is saying, where is Mark Ingram? Where is Mark Ingram here? Mark Ingram only appearing in these optimal lineups at 10%. And that's an interesting one. I'm kind of curious what our inputs have on Mark Ingram to why he's not projecting quite as well as those other guys. Where's my Saints? Where are my Saints? There we are. Mark Ingram, 64% of the rushing market share, 10% of the receiving market share. And let's compare that to our D'Ernest Johnson too. So it looks like we are giving a little bit of the work, rushing work and passing work here to Dwayne Washington. This part might be a little fragile just because Dwayne Washington has never profiled as a super great pass catcher. But let's see. So 64% and 10%. D'Ernest Johnson, we have all the way up at 78% versus 11%. So the difference here with as far as how the sausage is getting made is just projecting D'Ernest for a larger market share of rushing than Mark Ingram. So that kind of checks out to me. I do think they're pretty similar plays, but you're kind of just betting on how much is Dwayne Washington involved versus how much is, Brian Hill involved. And I think you could make the argument that Dwayne Washington is going to be involved as little as Brian Hill is. All of a sudden, you boost up Mark Ingram's market share. I think you're getting closer there. So you can see how the sims are still very fragile and reflective of these baseline inputs. And if you're slightly more bullish on Mark Ingram than this input, I think he gets up there a bit. But it is interesting to note that he isn't, showing up in the optimals quite as much as some of these other guys. Yeah, Ingram's scary because of Taysom Hill. Yeah, that's another good point. His market share of touchdowns is going to be a little less just because of Taysom Hill in the mix there. We have him projected for 7.6% of that TD market share. And then, of course, you go over to the Browns, and you're not going to have anyone else really threatening there. Although we do have a little Andy Janovich. Andy Janovich might be the Taysom Hill of the Browns this week. Anything else standing out here? Let's check the optimal lineups as well, which is different than the sims. The sims are factoring in all of those variables, how these players interact with each other and certain outcomes. The optimals will, of course, just spit out our best possible lineups based on our median projections here, so we can see how these are looking. All right, let me open this up. So already some interesting things popping out here. Seeing a lot of OJ Howard and Tyler Johnson, which actually makes me want to check what we have projected in right now for Chris Godwin. Let's see. Let's go to Tampa. Tampa wide receiver. Oops. We have, okay, so we still have Godwin in at 16 points, but we have Tyler Johnson with a pretty healthy 10 points. And it goes to what I was saying about how this slate is so starved for wide receiver value that you can see our optimizer here is really enjoying putting Tyler Johnson in. The Bills and the Bucks are dominating these optimal lineups. You see a ton of A.J. Brown here. I always like getting that confirmation when A.J. Brown is showing up in both the simulations and in the optimal lineups, and he's not going to be over 10% owned. So I will continue to beat the drum for A.J. Brown here. Unlike in the sims, you are still seeing a healthy dose of Mark Ingram in these optimal lineups. The optimal lineup I was looking at earlier with ETR's projections for like a ceiling lineup was a Josh Allen, Mark Ingram, Dearness Johnson, Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Jared Cook, James Conner, Lions D. Pretty similar textured lineup here, although you have some of these double teammates here, which probably won't be as popular as an optimal lineup, Evans and Johnson, Cook and Eckler there. But otherwise, not a ton of surprises here, I would say, other than Aaron Jones. Seeing a lot of Aaron Jones in here, which is pretty interesting. He's basically the A.J. Brown of running backs this week. And I definitely want to make sure I have a sprinkle of him. Man, I was looking at this, and this is such a tough question this week. It is so hard to find running back or wide receivers in that range. I can give you a few. I do think Christian Kirk looks good again to me this week with DeAndre Hopkins really unlikely to play. He's at 5,500. I think Jerry Jeudy looks good again to me at 5,300. He's a nice option. I think you can also consider both of the Bills wide receivers, Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley. So there's a few names, but it is pretty gross in that mid-5 range this week. Let's see. Who does the chat like? Yes. The chat likes Jeudy. That is, I'm on board with that. We have Beasley. Jacoby Myers. I just don't like that game. That game seems pretty gross to me, but I do get it. Like there are certain builds where you just find yourself needing that salary. I mean, you could toss Devonta Smith in there. I do think the Jalen Hurts skinny stacks are not really going to be used this week. I assume a decent amount of people will play like Dallas Goedert as a one-off, but man, no one's going to play Devonta Smith at 5,900. So maybe as we talk it out, maybe the options in the 5K range aren't as bad, but it's tough sledding finding anything of value at wide receiver this week. I mean, the DraftKings pricing on this is pretty solid, but I do like Christian Kirk, especially if you're going to run out like a Christian McCaffrey. I like that mini there with Kirk. I think I know Rondell should play. His usage has been pretty poor. I guess if you can tell yourself the story that he is now with a week of practice, going to get some more of the Edmonds kind of pass catching work, that could be interesting. But to me, that feels a little like wish casting and not something that we should absolutely be banking on. Yeah, I think Michael Gallup is the best cheap wide receiver play. I've just been nervous that he is going to be super popular because he checks every box as a cheap wide receiver who gets steamed because he's in one of the best game environments. Dak is projecting as the most popular QB on the slate. And what did we talk about? We talked about this on our Monday lineup review, right? With the whole Jalen Hurts was projecting as the top QB and then Devonta Smith. His ownership ends up coming in higher. Lamar Jackson last week was projecting as the top QB and Marquise Brown came in way, way higher than we thought. To me, Gallup is the guy we flip over the cards on this week and we're like, holy shit, Gallup's 30%. And it's like, well, yeah, because everyone's playing Dak and you toss Gallup into your doubles and there's no other wide receiver value. So I don't know. I'm having a hard time with Gallup because even with updated ownership, I'm seeing it sub 10%. But in my stuff, in the SPY, in the 3 max, I think it's going to be so much higher than that. And the other thing is earlier in the week, we had James Washington, who was popping in optimizers more as the cheap play. And now I don't think people want to play James Washington in that game without Big Ben with the snow, yada, yada. So I don't know. Michael Gallup sub 10%, I think is an absolute jam, but I do really worry we're going to see him like 25 to 30%, just for a variety of those factors. Is Chester Rogers popping? I didn't even have him on my short list of like 45 wide receivers. Chester Rogers, I'm going to add him to my spreadsheet here. 3,100, 7-point ceiling, 0 ownership. So no, he's not popping. Do I think he'll be on a snap count? My thought with these guys who miss a lot of time is like the team has already decided they're not rushing him back. So I just don't know why he would still be limited. I assume he is going to be on the field for most 3 wide receiver sets. So and he's getting projected like he's going to as well. I think Leone has him for an 18-point ceiling projection, which is right there, next to Devonta Smith, Jarvis Landry, Corey Davis. So to me, that looks about right and projecting him to play the full game. Najee Snow game. Yeah. I mean, his touch projection has to be like 30 carries in this spot. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to play Najee just because I'd rather get up to Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. I'd rather go down to James Conner. I'd rather play Eckler and Dalvin Cook in Los Angeles Charger, Minnesota game stacks. But yeah, I get the Najee stuff. I get it. Let's see here. GM Tigbo, how are we doing, buddy? Is Pollard galaxy braining it? Yes. If you want a galaxy brain, play Randre Stevenson. There's just so much opportunity cost on this slate at running back. There's just so many good plays. You have 3 good punt plays in Dearness, Mark Ingram, and Rhamondre. You have like 3 or 4 great plays in the 6s. You have great running backs in good game environments like Zeke, Cook, and Eckler. And then you have really good top-end options in JT, McCaffrey, and Najee. So I don't want a galaxy brain. I'll give you the one other name along with Rhamondre Stevenson that I'm considering, and that's Michael Carter as a bring back in my Bills stacks. I've been really kind of looking at basically 3 options. 1, not doing a bring back. 2, Michael Carter. 3, Corey Davis. Corey Davis returning in this spot at 4,900. I don't think is going to be popular. So those are kind of the options I'm weighing. But for the most part, I'm going to have a pretty narrow running back pool this week. This stat line sounds about right. Najee 40 rush yards for 97 yards. What we really need for the take cast is for him to get 101 yards, gets the bonus, then gets tackled for a 3-yard loss, loses the bonus, and then we get to listen to Davis, Nate, and Sammy tilt about it on Sunday night. Now I cannot do this. Noted take cast guest Brian Hill. Do not play Brian Hill. I'm begging you. I don't like Jameson Crowder. Like I said, I think with Corey Davis back and with Elijah Moore's role increasing, Crowder has always just been a pure volume play, and now his volume is really taking a hit. So if you want to make the Jets wide receiver play, I would do it with Corey Davis over Jameson Crowder. Same price, or 100 difference and a slightly better ceiling there for Corey Davis. Let's see. I don't think that CMC will be that great against the Cards. I would rather have Najee, but I agree with JT. So, he's a tough one, right? Where I'm surprised that there isn't more enthusiasm for Christian McCaffrey. He's the, consensus most talented fantasy running back we have, coming into the season. Undisputed 101, has that elite pass catching and rushing upside. And now he's going to be the least owned of the top 8 ceiling backs. And I know they have a quarterback turnover, that offense. has been bad. That game, it looks pretty gross. But man, I think Christian McCaffrey, I think if you're not considering Christian McCaffrey, you need to turn in your GPP bro card. I mean, these are the spots we live for, right? Like, is anyone going to be surprised if Christian McCaffrey has 20 carries and 10 catches this week and scores 35 points? And we're like, why didn't we see that coming? Well, no shit. It's Christian McCaffrey. So I don't know. When you look at his ceiling projection, Jonathan Taylor has a higher ceiling, and then you have McCaffrey, Najee, and Eckler all there around the same ceiling projection. And Najee and Austin Eckler are going to be double the ownership of McCaffrey. And I get that they're more expensive or less expensive. Najee's $500 cheaper. Eckler is $800 cheaper. So I get why that's happening. But I mean, Christian McCaffrey is a great GPP play. Okay. Let's do a couple other things here. I did actually get in a few of the Underdog drafts last night, so we can do one of those in a second. I do just want to check in on my Owners Club lineups because this was a very fun slate to build for these. Please do not dupe me, bros. I'm begging you. For those of you who don't know, the Owners Club, it's NFT meets DFS. And you can build out 5-card lineups, a spot for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. The rub is that it's not individual players. You get the entire cumulative points for that team's position. So when you play Indianapolis running back here, I get all of Jonathan Taylor's points. I get all of Nyheim Hines' points, all of Marlon Mack's points if he's active, etc. So slightly different strategy, although I still definitely employ the stacks fairly regular. The other quirk about this, and you might be seeing, oh, how do you have Dolphins D in here, is you get the hindsight of the Thursday performances before putting in your lineup. And the Dolphins scored 21 points on Thursday night. So I think they are going to be pretty close to an optimal defense. I should also mention I've started doing a weekly stream with Mike Zakarian over at Team Hold. We're going to talk through more in-depth the Owners Club strategy on Fridays. Last week we did it on his channel. This week we will do it on my channel and kind of alternate back and forth. This lineup here is more close to kind of an optimal lineup. Bill stack, Indianapolis running back, Vegas tight end. And then with my other two main event lineups, I'm rolling with slightly less optimal, but I think very high upside stacks. So I have, of course, the Dallas QB to wide receiver stack with the Atlanta running back bring back. Obviously, Cordell Patterson, a little bit of a cheat code there where you're getting his, wide receiver points as running back points. So I think that one checks out. And then, of course, this Chargers stack with the Minnesota running back bring back, jamming two good tight ends here. KC, I do have two Las Vegas tight ends, and then Steelers defense and Cardinals defense. So those are my main event teams. In the side hustle, running some stacks here. Cardinal stack, which I'm going to need to update that because I made that earlier in the week when I thought Kyler was going to play. So we're probably going to get off of that. Although this Green Bay QB to wide receiver stack is looking good. And then this is kind of an unconventional stack here in this game, but Denver running back with both Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams playing so well, I think it's viable with the Hurts Philly quarterback. And then, of course, some low ball stuff, getting to use my Jets, getting to use my Jags, my Falcons wide receiver. It really hurts to put Panthers wide receiver in here. So those are the Owners Club. If you guys have questions about that on the Thursday stream, I shared some of my projections as well. So that's been helpful in making lineups. Brandon says, is it pick'em time? Yes. I say we head over to Underdog. I say we do a Royal Rumble and then we go shopping for some pick'ems. Yeah, Rondale Moore is going to play today. Let's see here. Rick Carter says, he doesn't say anything. He just gave me $5. Thank you, Rick. That was very nice of you. I appreciate that. Let's hop in a battle royale here. I did one, a couple last night and have definitely been building around that Chargers Minnesota game. Mike Williams and Keenan, pretty easy to get in these. We will see what this has cooking for us today. If you guys want to hop in, one more spot. Cook and Keeler? Cook and Keelan? Keenan? Sure. Why not? Hurts or Russ for season-long team? We're doing season-long? Hurts. I'm excited to see Russ back. I do think that game has a pretty wide range of outcomes, but I feel like Hurts' ceiling is still going to be higher just with the rushing. My 9v9 for cash. You have to get in the Discord if you want to get my shell cash lineup. Actually, that reminds me, someone did send me a $20 DraftKings head-to-head invite this week, so I do need to take the 4 minutes of mental brain power to come up with a cash game lineup. So thank you for reminding me that I will be a cash game bro partly for this week. Yeah, Willis can't hop in and steal AJB. Hope you are having a lovely vacation in Las Vegas, Willis. You are up early, 8:15 a.m. in Las Vegas, Willis. You're supposed to be out till 5 a.m. and still sleeping right now. Would you play Eckler and Cook in the same lineup? I wouldn't. I don't think it's bad, but I do like the minis in the other direction. You know, Dalvin with a Mike Williams or Keenan, Eckler with a Justin Jefferson or Thielen. And just because there's so many other good running back plays this week that I don't love using both my spots on those running backs, but I don't think it's bad. Those guys both catch passes. They both can be involved in varying game scripts. Just not my preference, but I think it's fine. You're up $1,000. That's awesome. Congratulations. I am on the clock. Let's get these quarterbacks out of here. Yeah, let's do, I don't have a JT yet. We'll get a JT and then be done with running back. Let's see here. Sorry if I missed it earlier. Could you go over the Sims? Yeah, you got to scroll back, man. We went through all the Sims top plays here, so you can wind the tape. Probably about 25 minutes ago in the stream, we went through all the Sims. Eckler, McCaffrey, high T turn start there. Let's see. I am going to grab. All right, I'm going to grab Diggs then. I am going. Is this finally the week that we get the Stefan Diggs pop-off game? It does really feel like a now or never for Diggs. We've put up with a lot of bullshit. Now they get the Jets. Obvious bounce back spot. I know he's not getting the volume, but still, if there were ever a time for Stefan Diggs to pop off for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns, it's this week. I'm begging you. Let's see here. By the way, if you guys haven't signed up for Underdog now, they're doing a $100 deposit match. So you put $100 in, win a car. I was actually talking, I don't know, it was with my brother-in-law about Vegas Vacation, National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation. And Nick Papagiorgio, put $1 in, win a car. Put $1 in, win a car. Put $100 in, Underdog matches your $100 deposit. So yeah, promo code Pete, $100. They give you another 100. You can get in these Royal Rumbles. And similar to the Owners Club, I was like looking at the lineups of my opponents last night, and people, at least in my contest, have not been stacking. They haven't been thinking about correlation. I should probably make more time to jam more than 3 or 4 entries into these, because they seem pretty plus EV from a lineup construction standpoint. All right, let's see what we're working with here. So Allen is off the board, so we won't mess around with that stack. I am going to grab Pitts because I think there is a pretty big drop-off at tight end, and Pitts has been going kind of all over the place in these drafts from what I saw last night. I've seen him go anywhere from late second to early fourth. Sometimes you can chance it, but I do really think Pitts just has the ability to really separate from these next tight ends and Hawkinson, Schultz, Goddard. So now I might see if it's possible. Dak already went, right? Yeah, so I can't set up that, although we could set up a little mini correlation here with Amari and Lamb. I'll probably do that, and then I'll need to finish with a stack because I'm not going to have any other stacking options. And I don't mind getting a little off the board. We could go with like a Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, which has been something I've been doing a lot of here. Oh, Justin Herbert goes. So we might actually punt the stack until the very end now. Maybe we could do like a Russell Wilson with, did DK Metcalf already go? Look at all my good ideas are getting thrown out the window right now. Maybe we go with a Jalen Hurts. Maybe we go with a Jalen Hurts. I am going to grab one of Amari or Lamb here. Everyone taking their sweet time. I do prefer Lamb in a vacuum. Speaking of in a vacuum, that is the podcast feed, the name of the podcast feed. For those of you guys who want to listen to the Monday morning lineup review, the Friday strategy show, like the one I did with Reeves, and this show, I put those all on the podcast feed, and I'll also start tossing up the Owners Club show breakdowns up there as well. If you prefer my voice to my face, which would be fair. That would be fair. All right, now I need to really think about what stack I'm going to do here. Because we're getting in gross territory. Should I do like a Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith feels a little thin. This is breaking my correlation bro brain right now. It's really hurting it. Maybe we'll do Russ to Lockett. I think Russ to Lockett seems fine. That seems fine. Oh, yeah. I actually meant to mention this. It was, luckily, it was just the first 4 to 5 minutes of it, but there was something, there was a weird glitch with the audio. It was fixed after that, but I have no idea. I just download the audio directly from StreamYard. I have no idea what happened there. Thank you for passing this along. I need to go and check that out. But that is good to know about James Robinson. I think at this point, the main news we're waiting on is what? Mostly the 4 p.m. With DeAndre and Kyler. I guess getting confirmation about Chris Godwin, making sure Randre Stevenson is playing. I think those are the last ones, but we'll know here in about the next 10 minutes. All right, I'm on the clock. I'm going to get my stack. Lockett. Here it is. Russell Wilson to Lockett, a CeeDee Lamb and Kyle Pitts mini stack, and then chasing some one-off ceilings with Jonathan Taylor and Stefan Diggs. Looks good to me. Looks good to me. Let's finish here looking and seeing if we can find a pick'em we like. Last week, I feel like we found a ton of pick'ems we liked. Brady, 304 pass yards. Mike Evans scoring a TD is kind of fun. We do now have Mike Evans with a higher rushing or receiving prop than Chris Godwin. Don't really want to mess with OJ Howard. Man, Antonio Gibson, 40.5 rushing yards. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I don't mind that McKissick. It seems like he is going to be very busy today. 51.5 seems reasonable. Nothing standing out yet. DeAndre Swift, man, that's a pretty big number in this game. God, that's a monster number for Najee. I don't know if I have the stones to bet the under, but I wouldn't mind betting the under there. Mark Ingram, 58.5 rushing yards. Traquan, 37.5. I want to say ETR in their prop channel earlier this week hit the under on Traquan Smith. Yeah, they took the under on 40.5 receiving yards. So 37.5, a little bit more reasonable, but probably not a bad lean there. Jerry McNichols, 21.5 receiving yards. Look at, where's our A.J. Brown prop, Underdog? You cowards, give us the A.J. Brown prop. Matt Ryan, Cordell Patterson, Russell Gage, 52.5 yards. Jeez. Kyle Pitts, 69.5 yards. Nice. Tony Pollard, 53.5. Amari and CeeDee there with a 13-point difference. Come on, Underdog. Give me a nice line I can snipe. Dearness Johnson, 81.5 rushing yards. 0.5 rush TDs. Do we get a Rhamondre I might have to just bet a Randre. Man, that's a nice number. I mean, it's a big number. I mean, it's bullish for his fantasy prospects that this rushing yardage thing, although it seems a little high. God, I want to bet it though. Diggs 80.5 receiving yards. Maybe we'll just have fun today and just bet Randre and Diggs overs. Corey Davis 47.5. Someone was asking about Jameson Crowder versus Corey Davis earlier, so the books definitely preferring Corey Davis there. Brian Schultz says the Dearness rushing TD over seems like a lock. All right, if you say so. But then you got to tell me you're on Twitter, and then everyone gets to come into your mentions. I don't toss around the word lock around here. Funny story. Leote told me that Jamal Agnew was popping in the optimizer earlier this morning, and so he had to go bully the optimizer to make sure Jamal Agnew wasn't popping as much. Thank God LaVisca has a higher prop than Jamal Agnew. I mean, thank the Lord. Jonathan Taylor, 112 rushing yards. Jefferson at 76.5. That looks kind of tempting here. Mike Williams, I like at 63.5. But man, there's a reason these are GPP plays and not betting the props. Christian McCaffrey. This looks fun. Christian McCaffrey, 47.5 receiving yards. Man. Why can't something reveal it? I actually don't mind the James Conner 69.5 rush yards. That looks pretty good there. Jalen Hurts, total yards, Devonta Smith. I think, ETR took the under on Jordan Howard rushing. They took it under 48.5. So you see how much the line moves down to 42.5 now. Let's see. Anything else jumping out here? Anything else jumping out? Otherwise, maybe we'll go and bet some touchdown props. All right. Iceman likes Evans TD and Schultz likes Dearness TD. You guys just want to YOLO TD it? Let's YOLO TD. Mike Evans TD and Dearness Johnson TD. Fine. We'll do it. We'll do it. This was a pick'em for the people, by the people, and then you have to get mad at the people if it doesn't hit. I'm absolving myself of responsibility for this prop. This is on Iceman and Brian Schultz. The blood is on your hands. All right, guys. This was fun. I need to go finish the newsletter. I need to make some lineups. I will be back at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight for the Tilt Space. If you'd like to hop in the Run the Sims channel in the Discord, lots of good lineup building and GPP bro talk. Don't forget to get your hand builder hoodie, super comfy. The link is pinned there, and there's a promo code specifically for people who are Run the Sims members and Hand Builder and OptoBro YouTube members. Good luck this week. Get that takedown.